We have the return of Ryan Garcia, this time against Mario Barrios, the current WBC title holder. I don't think Ryan Garcia deserves a title shot. Like we said, he didn't perform the best. He got dropped against Rolly. He looked very uninspired that night, but he now has the opportunity to become a world champion at the 147.
It's about time, huh? They want to still set up this potential rematch against Devin Haney. So, come Saturday night, that's what they're looking for. I never really considered Mario Barrios a very elite fighter. He's had the opportunity to fight and defend his title on big cards, and he didn't perform.
Ryan Garcia needs to win this fight. This is his third weight division that he's fought in his career, and he has yet to become a champion. Mario Barrios is definitely the weakest champion. If he doesn't beat Mario Barrios, I don't see him going up to 154 sometime in the future and winning there. There's too many killers at the 154. 147 is his best bet at winning the title. Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over the WBC 147 title match featuring Ryan Garcia as he takes on Mario Barrios. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. And now, diving into the episode, we have the return of Ryan Garcia. Last time we saw him was for the WBA welterweight title when he took on Rolly Romero back in New York of last year in a fight that was very underwhelming and overall showcased a terrible version of Ryan Garcia, and one that a lot of people were saying this is what happens when you're not on Austrian. So the comments on X and social media were about Ryan Garcia's performance that night, but he returns once again for somehow another title shot, this time against Mario Barrios, the current WBC title holder. Last time we saw Mario Barrios, he was taking on the legendary Manny Pacquiao in a fight that was called a draw. Now, that fight was overall somewhat more exciting, of course, than the Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia, but it definitely showed that Mario Barrios is not really that guy.
Yeah.
And now we see him return against Ryan Garcia in a fight that a lot of people are not big fans of. They don't really like this title matchup. They really think it's a terrible fight overall, but we're getting it nothing less. And if everything goes right for Ryan Garcia, he may just become a new world champion at the welterweight division. Thoughts about this?
Yeah. Look, I understand the criticism that a lot of people are giving Ryan Garcia, and I've talked about it too. Even on just off the podcast. But for a guy to have lost in the way or in the fashion that Ryan Garcia did in his last fight, and then to be able to fight for another world title in his next fight, and it's been almost a year since his last appearance in the ring. So, there was a lot of critique, and I understand that, but it's modern boxing. If you have the followers, if you have the polling power, then you're able to do these things. So, I really do think that Ryan Garcia has been blessed for a very long time, and I'm just excited to see what happens. I'm very excited about fight week. The weather's getting warmer. The Dow Jones is over 50,000. And, it's officially fight week.
Of course, yeah, I'm very happy. I can't wait to see King Rai become a world champion finally.
It's about time, huh? Yeah, it felt like, I think the whole boxing, especially just Turkey and all them people, they really wanted him to beat Rolly Romero. And so, they want to still set up this potential rematch against Devin Haney. So, come Saturday night, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, a lot of people, after the Rolly Romero fight, a lot of questions were being asked. And for sure, Turkey after that event was very pissed off because overall, just not even going on about the Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero fight that day, but the overall card was very underwhelming. No one really performed besides Teofimo, in which he gave a decent performance against Barbosa, but Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia definitely underperformed in very boring fights. So and also the fact that Ryan Garcia lost, therefore the whole build up for a rematch for later in the fall of 2025 was ultimately scrapped from the books.
I think also the fact that I don't even think he broke even. I'm pretty sure he lost some money because he had to get 30 fucking permits in order to have that fight on some New York street.
Yeah. And the way that people were so overall, the event was just very underwhelming. Just the whole thing, because when they were promoting the event, they were saying, "Oh, like anyone can watch you on Times Square." The promotional posters was of the ring, and then like a huge wave of crowds of people. And then come fight night, it's like a little piece of the block.
No, it's blocked off. Yeah,
just blocked off. It's like a crowd of like 100 people maybe. So people online were very critical on the overall, not just the undercard in the fight, but just the overall aspect, the environment, the atmosphere of the whole arena during the time. But now now Ryan Garcia has the chance to kind of showcase a different version of himself. Like we said, he didn't perform the best. He got dropped against Rolly. He looked very, very bad and very lethargic. He looked very uninspired that night, but he now has the opportunity to become, like we just mentioned, the first time a world champion at the 147. And it's ultimately it's basically he's a very lucky guy, just more so in the fact that he's very blessed to have the polling power, the name, the brand that gets him here, because there's no way in hell you tell me that you lose you lose a title or a fight for a title, and then in a very underwhelming performance, and then in your next fight you get another shot at it, or at a different title from a different sanction. But after a performance like that, it very showcases the popularity that Ryan Garcia pulls.
Yeah, I mean, that's boxing. I mean, we also have to take a look at the other corner. Mario Barrios is also a guy who's been very lucky. He's had the opportunity to fight and defend his title on like big cards. You know what I'm saying? He fought against Manny Pacquiao, and then he fought on the undercard of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, which drew tremendous numbers, right? And he didn't perform. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't beat a 45, 46-year-old man. And then against Ramos, he almost lost. He was looking good, and then just out of nowhere, Ramos just turns up the intensity, and then it almost seems as though Barrios is going to lose his title. And so I want to say he's also very lucky as well. Giving these two draws, he's still the champion, and even then he didn't fight for that belt. Like, he was just given the belt to him, via email. So. I never really considered Mario Barrios a very elite fighter, but he's a champion. So, and he remains the champion. So we'll just wait and see what happens Saturday.
Yeah, they've been showing a lot this past week of, they got to do their weight check. Yeah. See where they're at, and the last one was on Saturday, I believe. Yeah. And Ryan Garcia is at the 149. Right now, so he's hit the 140. Barrios was at 150, I believe, but he was nearing the 149. So they have a week left to hit that 147 mark. They're both on route to hit it, but you can definitely tell that's gonna. It's a lot of weight. I mean, you see Ryan Garcia prior to him cutting the weight. When he was first starting camp, he's a big dude, man. He seems he's bulky dude. So I'm sure the weight cuts, pretty brutal for him, as well as Mario Barrios. I mean, Mario Barrios essentially I'm surprised he even made 140 during his campaign there. And I saw a post say on X from a Gervonta Davis fan, and they're like, "Oh, Gervonta Davis is the only one to ever stop a 147 Mario Barrios," right? And I'm like, "Yo, come on, guys! Like, they'll do anything to gas up Tank Davis at this point." But Mario Barrios, Ryan Garcia are on route to hitting weight at 147. How are we seeing the fight playing out on fight night?
Well, just in regards to the weight, I think it's kind of crazy the fact that Ryan Garcia moved up to a new weight class, not too long ago, and he's already looking like. He's kind of struggling to make that weight. I'm very surprised just the amount of weight that he puts on in between fights. So, yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell he's showing those signs of, being a little bit, maybe, I don't want to say dehydrated, but when you see a guy's face sunken in like that, looking like a skeleton, it tells you, he's putting in that work, but, he's also struggling right now and feeling a little hungry as well. Mario Barrios is a guy who's also big. So, but I was just very surprised to see Ryan Garcia as a face. You know what I'm saying? In the state that he's currently in. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. But Ryan is a very young dude. I don't think that should be a factor come Saturday.
Yeah, he does look a bit dehydrated right now, and people were pointing it out on X, especially how that might play a factor. It might not. I don't know. We'll see on fight day. But yes, there's a lot of talk about this fight. Like we said, the critique about it even being a fight. I mean, especially from Ryan Garcia's point of view, but it's a fight, nothing less. Predictions on it.
Yeah. Look, I think it's going to be whoever is the faster dude come fight night is going to win. And, we see, Keen Ryan, the speed of Ryan Garcia. Keen Ryan has that special punch, that left hook. More specifically, that ghost punch. You know what I'm saying? On the other side, Mario Barrios is a guy who's tough and durable. He never backs down from a tough fight, but he's just so slow. You know what I'm saying? Against Manny Pacquiao, he wasn't even faster than him. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see the difference in the speed, the youth versus the old. I just saw a guy that was just, on that same gear, not switching it up, not exploding, just remaining on the same speed throughout the whole fight. And he ended up getting a draw. Yeah. So I really do think that, Ryan Garcia is in a very good place right now in his career that, he should come out victorious come Saturday.
Yeah, I like what you said about the speed. I really do think that Barrios is he's way too planted down in the ring. He's not very explosive, and his movements just aren't very fluid, I feel. So when you're going up against a guy like Ryan Garcia, who's literally known as like a speed assassin, a speed killer, and has great power, it's going to be a bit tough. Mario Barrios gets hit on almost all of his fights. I don't think his defense is that great, I'm going to be honest. And I think Ryan has the speed advantage, and if they worked on it in training camp, I think he can set up traps to knock out Mario Barrios.
Yeah. The one thing, look, I do believe that Ryan Garcia could stop Barrios, but one thing that surprised me is the fact that when Barrios fought Keith Turman wasn't able to put him down, right? But he was able to swell his face like a balloon. And so, that goes to show that he does have a chin. He's only been stopped once, and that was against a smaller guy. But you can also say, the weight also, played a factor or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, at this weight class, how Ryan Garcia looks and the power and stuff like that. But my official prediction, I'm going to say a late TKO stoppage for Ryan Garcia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of hard because first off, like I said, I'm with the boxing community in the fact that I'm not a big fan of this matchup. I don't think Ryan Garcia deserves a title shot. And also, second thing is, for this prediction, both of them are coming off, they're in bad form. Before Pacquiao, Barrios had that hard fight with Ramos in the fight that he narrowly won. Or was it a draw?
It was a draw.
It was a draw, yeah. And he got dropped. He didn't look good, and then he fought Pacquiao, and then he didn't look good either. And then, people on the Pacquiao fight were saying, oh, maybe Barrios was a bit starstruck at the fact that he was up against a legendary fighter like Pacquiao. But still, I mean, you're the champion. You're much younger than him, and he's coming off from a long layoff as well. So you should be the guy who's setting the pace, asserting your style, asserting your dominance in the ring. And we didn't see that from Barrios. And ultimately, he's in bad form. Ryan Garcia, we've already gone over him with him and Rolly Romero. He's a very inactive fighter as well. So this is only going to be his second fight at welterweight, and he's already looking a bit dehydrated. So that's a big talking point as well. But ultimately, Ryan Garcia needs to win this fight because he's been at 135. He didn't hit 140, but we'll say 140, and now he's at 147. This is his third weight division that he's fought in his career, and he has yet to become a champion. Yeah, he's yet to really kind of solidify a legacy, to start something. And Ryan Garcia was always one of the names among the modern day four kings. And from all those modern day four kings, he's the one who's been left behind. Ultimately, he's the most popular one just because of the name, and probably financially well.
Yeah.
Which is people often say now that's what boxing's all about, making your money. Belts don't mean anything, but Ryan Garcia is obligated to at least have something on the table to showcase his value, and he needs to win this fight, especially he's coming up against Mario Barrios, who's also in bad form. So you got to turn it up against them, man. If he doesn't beat Mario Barrios, I don't see him going up to 154 sometime in the future and winning there. There's too many killers at the 154. 147 is his best bet at winning the title. Mario Barrios is definitely the weakest champion in that division. We've said it for many years now. We've said it for a long time, and it's still true to this day. So if anything, Ryan Garcia is obligated in my eyes to win, which is why I do think he's a bit more inspired. And I just don't see Mario Barrios as a big threat. But it also depends on the version of Ryan Garcia we get, because if we get the version that pulled up against Rolly Romero, this fight's going to stink. It's going to be a stinker. But if we get a version that pulled up like the one against Devin Haney, motivated and inspired, then we're going to get a good showing from Ryan Garcia. So it all depends on Ryan, on what form, how inspired he is for the fight. I think he will get the win. I'm not sure if it's going to be a stoppage at all. I think it might be a decision win for him. But I do think we are going to get a change in title holders at the 147, and I think Ryan Garcia will become a champion for the first time in his career.
Yeah. Ryan Garcia has to win in a spectacular fashion. He has to stop him, or he just has to have Barrios. He has to put him rope to rope. You know what I'm saying? Just have him always be on the back foot, so then people can be like, "Wow, do you see Ryan Garcia? Ryan Garcia looks dangerous, and now he's a world champion." We can't get a version of Ryan Garcia who just barely, gets a decision victory against a guy like Barrios. Barrios is not an elite level fighter. He's like a B minus, C plus type of fighter, but he's a champion. So, there's levels to this. Barrios has shown that he's not on that level, and Garcia. There's still a lot of potential. People still want to see him fight these other guys. There's a lot more fights that people want to see Garcia in, and other opponents that would be a good fight just for boxing overall. And so he needs to win. He needs to win in grand fashion. But if he doesn't, then he's not elite level.
Mm-hmm. So we all have Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia coming out on top this upcoming weekend as he looks to become a world champion for the first time and dethrone Mario Barrios for the 147 WBC belt. But as we go down the line for the undercard, we got the co-main event, and we're getting major movement at the 140 because we have two world title fights in this undercard. The co-main event, of course, we have Richardson Hitchins taking on Oscar Duarte, a former opponent of Ryan Garcia. Should be a good fight. Duarte, we've seen he's a very strong, very durable fighter. Of course, he was stopped against Ryan Garcia, but he was giving Ryan Garcia issues. His style, he's very aggressive, very imposing, very strong and tough. And from what we've seen from Hitchins, that may be his kryptonite. When he fought against Lemos a couple years back, Lemos did the exact same thing, just apply pressure, aggression, showed him no respect, and he controversially beat Lemos, but a lot of people believe that Lemos actually beat Hitchins that night. But Oscar Duarte is definitely a guy who's game. He's definitely going to show out. Hitchins, on the other hand, if he's going to stick you with the jab, you're just going to accept your fate and lose a 12-0. And he's the current IBF champion. Of course, Hitchins, in my eyes, is often overlooked in the landscape just because he's stylistically a bit boring. Not a big name. A lot of people don't really give him a lot of credit, even though he has been winning fairly in dominant fashion against some of these fighters. For example, when he took on Barrios and absolutely schooled him with a simple jab. So Hitchins, of course, he's very underlooked. After the Shakur fight with Teofimo, he called out Shakur, and that's a potential fight for the future. I saw a lot of the clips of Shakur and Hitchins sparring footage back in the day. It was like a minute of sparring footage, and a lot of people were saying, oh, it's a very 50-50 fight, this one, just because of the styles. So Hitchins has to deliver as the champion. Thoughts about this?
Yeah, this is one of your typical style. Two different styles clashing together. You know, you got Oscar Duarte, who's just your typical rugged Mexican aggressor, right? Is just gonna come forward, and he's got power in both hands. He's not the fastest, but for sure he's not gonna stop coming forward. And then you got Richardson Hitchins, who decorated amateur. He's also an Olympic boxer back in the amateurs, and so he's undefeated. Great record. He's the IBF champion. He has a very slick, American style. You know what I'm saying? It's more of a touch and move, and then just keep it pushing. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Oscar Duarte and his team have came up, to try to offset that. The only way that Oscar could win is just by making it rugged and tough. You know what I'm saying? Just sticking it to his face throughout the whole 12 fights. And, it's possible that he could even stop him too. I don't believe that Hitchins has like a chin like that. I think the moment that Oscar Duarte is able to land a good punch, he should be able to for sure hurt him, possibly even stop him.
Yeah, Duarte definitely does have that type of power. He carries that in his hands. The problem is, though, there's definitely parallels that could be drawn from the Lemos fight to this fight. But I don't know. I just think Lemos was a little bit more explosive. Like he was, even his footwork, he was pushing a little bit more, where I feel like Duarte's kind of like hunkered down, and that's how he gets a lot of his power from. So that's one of the things that's, when I look at this fight, scares me. It's that Duarte might not have like the speed advantage. His footwork might not be to the level of Richardson Hitchins, where Hitchins is going to be able to keep him on the outside and just box his head off for 12 rounds. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully Duarte cuts off the ring. I think that would be his best bet, because he's not going to be able to. His footwork is not going to be on the same level speed-wise as Hitchins. So cutting off the ring, cornering him, and then unleashing some devastating combinations is going to be Oscar Duarte's best bet.
Yeah, it should be very interesting, because we know how these two fighters are going to fight on fight night. It's a given. They fight completely the same style in every one of their fights, but it's going to be interesting to see their team's game plan on how to ensure that their style comes out on top on fight night. And honestly, my prediction for this fight, I think Hitchins will remain champion. I think the Lemos fight was a good learning experience for him, and I'm sure him and his team are aware of Duarte is going to implement a similar game plan of just being the aggressor and trying to make it rugged. So, if anything, they're going to take the Lemos fight, see where they made mistakes, and tinker with that and try to cover it up and just execute the game plan, which is to keep that jab pumping. Because Hitchins, many people might not like him, many may discredit him, but I think Hitchins has a fantastic jab, and he showed it against Barrios. He showed it many times, and I think he's going to keep that jab pumping throughout this fight, and that's going to be the ultimate decider, keeping Duarte at bay with that jab, keep him turning, and keep him guessing. And I think he's going to keep peppering them all night, and I believe that Hitchins will come out victorious and remain IBF champion at the 140.
I'm going to go with Duarte. I think that Lemos fight against Hitchins, I think it really showed me the fact that Hitchins does not like it when the fighters are just coming forward. They can handle his punch. They don't respect his punch, and I think he struggled quite a bit against a smaller dude. Now Oscar Duarte is a bigger dude. Like that dude is huge. So this guy is for sure not going to respect his power at all. He's just going to go forward, and I can see him just. I mean, all he has to do is try to neutralize that jab or move around it, and then he's there. And I think he could be able to break him down. And I could see him beating Hitchins. I don't know about stopping him, but he could for sure, get like a majority decision victory or something like that. Make it look, so rugged and so dirty, and just come out victorious like that.
Going for the upset. Yeah, man. I just can't see it, me personally. Yeah. I don't think that I just don't think Duarte has the speed for it. So my prediction is I think Hitchins is going to win this fight. I think he's probably going to get a unanimous decision victories. He's going to outbox Duarte. And then I'm curious to see his future. You know, this is a guy, that is being currently overlooked, but he still has a bunch of ties. And, like, he's been, fighting with a lot of, like, big-name guys like Shakur, Devin Haney. I mean, those would be career-defining fights for him, and I'm sure he wants something like that because he hasn't gotten that. And a lot of these guys that he knew in the amateurs, they're getting way more exposure, and they're having better career-defining fights. Where he's still, I mean, he's a world champion, which is amazing, but he doesn't really have a career-defining fight. So I'm interested to see, if he wins this fight, where does he go from here?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Hitchins. The big one is obviously Devin Haney at 147 or Sugar Shakur at 140. Now that Shakur officially got stripped off from his 135 WBC title, so I'm sure he might stay at the 140 for a bit, if he's able to get a big fight. And if Hitchins is able to get the job done on fight night, on Saturday night, then a showdown with Sugar Shakur for unification might be looming down the line later this year. It all just depends on the performance. And I'm sure he will come out on top just because, I mean, you look at Sugar Shakur, see how he performed against Teofimo in the masterclass. I'm sure it's gotten a lot of these other fighters who are around that weight class, especially like Hitchins, who are going to want to showcase a clinic of their own. So there's a lot at stake for Hitchins, and I think he will get the job done, and I think he will open himself up to more opportunities at the 140 division, staying champion there. But like I said, we had two big world title fights at the 140 division, not only Hitchins and Duarte, but we also have the return of Gary Antoine Russell as he takes on Andy Hiraoka. This fight, for a while, it was a bit cursed. This fight got postponed. Got postponed multiple times already. Let's hope it doesn't get postponed during fight week. Something may happen. One of the fighters might fall ill, or something like that. They can't make weight, so they collapse. They get sent to the ER type stuff.
Visa problem or something like that.
Yeah. So there might be issues. Let's hope there's no issues for this title, for this WBA world title clash. But we do have the return of Gary Antoine Russell. I believe the last time we saw him was when he beat the absolute shit out of Rayo Valenzuela in a very in like a 12-0 fight. I mean, it was not even close, man. So Gary Antoine Russell, oftentimes he was a bit overlooked. His only loss in his career was against Puello, yes. Yeah. Alberto Puello, in a fight that was close, but in a fight that he ultimately did fall short. So Gary Antoine Russell, current WBA champion at the 140, has been heavily regarded as one of the best champions there, or one of the best fighters in the division. And he has the opportunity to continue living up to that expectation as he takes on his number one mandatory fighter in Andy Hiraoka. Thoughts about this fight?
Every time a champion has to fight against their number one ranked contender, that always means that guy is ready. He's going to come in and put in 110%. I'm not too knowledgeable about this Japanese fighter, but, we know that Japanese fighters love to come and fight, give a good fight. So, we know how Russell fights. He loves to come in and just go forward. This guy has power in both hands. He's a southpaw. And he has really good boxing abilities as well. He has really good counter abilities. So I'm expecting to see both guys just come in and just start swinging and just kind of go from there. In regards to Russell, though, I think I do want to see him win and then go and unify for some of these belts. We were just talking about Hitchins. They both fought in the amateurs. I'm not sure how many times they fought, but I know at the Olympics they fought and Russell ended up beating him at the Olympics. So that would be a nice fight for those two now at the elite level as both professionals. So I'm expecting Russell to win and just keep it going.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Gary Russell, man. I really like his style. I like how much combinations he throws. It's not just one or two punches. It's 3, 4, 5. And he just beat the dog shit out of Valenzuela, man. It was kind of sad to see as a Rayo fan, but it is what it is. So I'm expecting Gary Russell to go in there and be motivated, inspired, and get a victory, because I do believe he does have eyes for unifications, and I want to see that.
Yeah, and Russell is one of those fighters that a lot of people aren't really calling his name. I saw him. He was on the segment Inside the Ropes with the Ring. Max Kellerman and Mike Coppinger and some of the other two co-hosts. They had Russell on, and Russell expressed the fact that Shakur is at 140. That's a fight that he would love to fight. Russell is a guy. He's an elite fighter, man. He does have that one blemish on his record, but it was against a guy who it's a tricky dude. Puello ain't no joke. To beat Puello, you have to be 110% ready for that. So this guy is part of the elite class, and so I just really want to. Just like Hitchins, he doesn't really have. I guess apart from the Rayo fight, he doesn't really have a big name. A really big elite fighter on his resume. So Shakur is there now. Hitchins is there. And just go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts for Russell if he is able to get the victory over Hiraoka this upcoming week. I'm looking at Hiraoka's record. Of course, like I'm with you on the fact that I'm not too knowledgeable on Andy Hiraoka, but his last fight was back in September of 2024, where he stopped the legendary Ismael Barroso.
No way.
Yeah, he stopped him in the ninth. In the ninth round. Yeah. And if we remember Barroso, the legendary run he had going on, man, an absolute legend. But he was
the grandpa that could hit. I think that was the best nickname for him.
Yeah, dude. I mean, homie looked old as hell, and he was old, but he hit like a fucking semi. But yes, that was his last fight. He has not. He didn't fight at all. 2025, of course. There was postponements for this fight multiple times throughout the year, so hence why he didn't get a fight. I'm surprised they didn't even go for a tune-up, which I'm sure they didn't really want to risk it. They wanted to get this title fight, which tells me that Andy and his team are very motivated for the fight, and they're confident that they have the right tools and they have the right preparation to become new WBA champion at the 140. And if they're able to do it, number one, shocker, big upset right there. Yeah. And number two, Hiraoka puts himself up in a class full of elite fighters. I mean, a Shakur fight would be there, a Hitchins, maybe even unification with Dalton Smith. So that would be a very interesting timeline right there. If Hiraoka is able to pull off the upset against Russell and become the new champion, I mean, now you'd have two Americans, one Japanese fighter, and one Brit in there. Yeah. So it'd be a very diverse weight division full of diverse champions, which would be interesting. But ultimately, I guess I'm a bit ignorant with Hiraoka, but I gotta go with Gary Antoine Russell just based on the performance he put up against El Rayo Valenzuela in his last outing, and I just have a lot of confidence in Russell that he will be getting the job done again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you guys want to give predictions? Specific predictions?
I think a scorecard.
Scorecard?
Yeah, for Gary Russell.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with a scorecard decision victory for Russell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to know how durable the other guy is to say whether he's going to get stopped. But I mean, Gary can stop people, but it'd have to be off of volume. So a safe bet is a decision victory.
So we are all in agreement that Gary Russell will be retaining his WBA 140 belt against Andy Hiraoka, his number one mandatory contender on the undercard of Mario Barrios against Ryan Garcia. Not only that, we also have the return of Frank Martin as he takes on here Albright, a.k.a. the Keyshawn Davis ops right there. And we also have the return of Boley as well to open up the card. So we have a decently stacked undercard for this, in my opinion, underwhelming matchup, main event. Yeah. But overall, it should be a good night. I mean, we didn't really have any boxing this week besides, Zuffa boxing. Mm-hmm. And boxing's a little bit stagnant this month. Yeah. Besides the Shakur was in January, so I can't even say February. So, yeah, we're looking forward to this fight, to this undercard. There could be a lot of movement, especially for the 140 division. Mm-hmm. And we could see new crownings, new upsets, and I'm very intrigued and interested in see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited about this whole card in general. You know what I'm saying? When was the last time we've had like a mega fight in Las Vegas? It seems as though the Saudis over there want to continue to have boxing over there and stuff like that. So, this card I think has the potential to, all these guys on the undercard, they all have the potential to maybe steal the night. You know what I'm saying? To put up a good performance and showcase, make a name for themselves in a big stage like this. And so I'm really interested. Even some of the fighters that we didn't mention or talk about. I'm also excited to watch them as well. That Boley guy, that dude is a straight bully, man. Like he punishes his opponents. He's not your typical Eastern European type of fighter. He's one of those that loves to come in and fight. And Frank Martin is a guy who, I was kind of writing him off after that knockout loss against Tank, but he's slowly coming back. And so, if he looks really good like how he did back in the end of last year with a knockout victory, good for him as well.
Yeah, is this with the ring? This card.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It makes sense why the undercard is so stacked. Yeah, because when they announced the full card, I was very surprised and very happy. So I'm super excited for this weekend. From start to finish, I'm expecting a very good night of boxing.
We have a big night of boxing upcoming this week, and hopefully we can get some big moments to kick off 2026 here, and hopefully we can get some new upsets, some retentions when it comes to the champions, and hopefully we get some big drama show, like the words of Gennady Golovkin. But I believe we covered everything that we wanted to cover in today's episode. Let us know down below your official predictions for Mario Barrios as he takes on Ryan Garcia, as well as the rest of the undercard. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. This was Pablo, and I'm with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.